Back at it again. Gonna do some more Elden Farm and maybe pick up some items that we haven't picked up so far. Last we were here, we were farming Clean Rot Knights. I had gotten 3 Halo size, but no spear yet. Let's change that. I think this is the shortest path to farm, or rather shortest time to farm. Could be wrong. I'm particularly planning out to test it in detail. Nope. Come on. But some other things on the menu. Farming the second magma blade. We did get one last stream. Getting a couple. Was it the Thorn Sorcery staves? Because those are pure faith scaling. We always do a few Thorn Sorcery invasions just for the funnies. I know they've been significantly nerfed, but dual wielding them would probably bring out some appreciable damage. And it's just fun to do sort of weird theme invasions, I think. No, could it be? Please be. I don't want to farm you anymore. Nope. One of these. Maybe we could make a theme build of painful farm items, right? So you get the man serpent shield. You got the Clean Rot Knight sword. Things that really express the pain of a man who's not obtained the items he's really desired in this farming run. Blasted with ice. How about that? Now die. I think those lilies are fine. They're useful. Not that we're gonna sleep anyone. Ha ha ha. Although Slip Grease is an interesting proposition. I don't think we really have enough arcane even on a bandit to make it appreciable. Like, do you get anything at minimum stats of Ripple Halberd? Maybe? Maybe a slight boost? I'm really not sure. I've never done the math. If anybody out there knows, let me know. It would be nice if you had a little calculator for that kind of thing. There might already be. Just something more included in Souls Planners and such. What is it this time? Halo. That's my 4th Halo scythe. Can we not? I'm genuinely in pain. Also, I totally forgot to turn on the chat. Not that I expect anyone to be there. Okay. If only my rig was slightly more robust, I could put some music on. I really ought to get myself like a PS4 or maybe eventually a PS5, but I can't really justify it currently. I can barely justify the time I'm spending playing this game instead of attending to other things in life. No, I will not elaborate. Can't block all of it. And I can't block the RNG. Well, if anyone wants a Halo scythe at 3, I might end up dual wielding them at some point, you know, for a lark. That's something you can say about half the things we farm up in this game. I'm suddenly lost. Is it this way? It's this way. Oh, fair rain. Reminds me of a line from an old cartoon. I don't know if cartoon is maybe the wrong word. An old abridged series or series of videos from before abridged was really a thing, pretty much. Back in like the 2010s, fairly early, I think. There's an animation by My Boggy called Full Metal Alchemist Reanimated. Always tickled my funny bone. I don't think it's on YouTube anymore, at least not incomplete. It might be incomplete. I think there's a thing where like the audio is desynced as well. It may eventually be lost to the sands of time. There's a lot of things that I wish I recorded way back when, using applications of questionable legality. Talks that a professor gave that the only record on his own website is incomplete. Comes to mind. Perhaps a few other things. Can't block them all, Spider-Man. Get over here a second. Let's keep it proper. Okay, please, please. No. Of course, the cool thing, if I may say, about Full Metal Alchemist Reanimated was that it was actually animated, like it was hand drawn. Well, hand drawn on computer. You get what I mean. Suppose in this modern day of excellent editing, the humor is nothing too great, but it always got me a lot more than actual bridge series. Which again, I don't know how impressive that is, but there's a lot of abridged series that just didn't tickle my funny bone. Well, that one did. Maybe it was because of the total freedom of the visual gags. Maybe it's Maybelline, I don't know. Okay, come on, Clean Run Knight. I almost feel like I shouldn't talk about these things. I don't know. It's definitely in the category of young old man rambles about things nobody's heard of or cares about. There is that why Bionicle is just plastic Plato's Republic that I've always wanted to make a video on, but I'll probably just end up rambling to people instead here. I could do it right now. Help me pass the time. So, Bionicle, at least everybody my age knows about, I think, even if they didn't really get a bunch of toys when they were young. And the lore's been covered, pretty well by a bunch of people online. You can find Bionicle lectures that go like 8-9 hours, I think. Certainly 3 or 4. Pretty cool stuff, honestly. Way more than was needed to sell toys, and that's what really put the heart into it. So it made the toys good. But I guess I'll talk about it, because why not? Who's to stop me? It's not like it's like a Twitch ban topic or something. So basically, for those of you who don't know, the whole thing about Bionicle was there's this giant space robot because there's a war-torn planet and everybody kind of screwed it up and destroyed the planet and all such things. And so basically, these ancient engineers of immense power are like, hey, we're going to need to make a survey robot to go out into the universe and check out if there's any that are habitable that we can go back to. And it like goes out and surveys, and it's coming back, and it runs into trouble. But we'll get back around to that in a second. So the way this robot works is it has a whole race of little robots inside of it, or series of races almost, that take care of making sure the parts of the robot don't break, right? That they get repaired. And there's almost sort of these castes or orders of them. So like the basic workers called a Matoron. It's a little guy, and he just fixes stuff. And then there's a more powerful form called a Toa that manipulates, all sorts of awesome elemental powers. And Toa's task is to basically to protect order and make sure no harm comes to the workers, right? And then there's these fellows called Turagas, which are elders, rulers, administrators, basically. And by the way, like when the story starts, you don't know any of this. All you know is this, this society composed of these figures, or really just the Matorn and the Turaga, and there's some ancient legends, prophecy, or whatever, that the Toa will come and save them from the troubles that are besetting them, and blah blah blah. But basically, that's sort of the society that's inside the giant robot, right? Is these workers, and then the guardian Toa, and that look after the physical dangers, and then the Turaga, who basically are wise guys, right? That's their thing, they're wise. And oh shoot. So here's the thing, though, right? The structure of that society, intentional or otherwise, is basically identical to Plato's idea of the Republic. There's the class of producers or laborers whose task it is to produce, basically, right? And then there's the guardians. And when the guardians become aged, if they're suitable, they become the rulers. And I never really noticed that until like a few years back, way past the age I was playing with Bionicles. But I wish I still was. It's fun to mess around with the bricks, right? And I was like, well, I don't think that was intended at all, but that's kind of neat. It's very structurally similar, and it's a lot more similar than you might think. Like, it's not just, like there's 3 categories. Like, yeah, whatever, they correspond. Okay, but that's pretty obvious. It goes a little bit further than that, because if you've ever read Plato's Republic, where he sort of explains this theory of ordering society in this way, right? The whole point of this is not to propose like an actual form of government that should be practically followed, but to give a sort of schematic. He explains this when he's talking about. It's like, okay, so what is justice in the first place? What is sort of individual justice? What is justice as regards to the soul? And this comes up because basically Socrates is talking with some folks, and one of them is a sort of shall we say, a political realist, says, like, what is justice but the desires of the stronger, right? The will of the stronger. And Socrates, in order to say it's something else, has to somehow show that you would be just even if no one could see you being just. In other words, that justice is good for the soul and that injustice harms the soul. In order to show that, right, he's got to say, well, what does it mean to have injustice in the soul, right? What does that meaningfully cash out to? Of course, that's kind of difficult to do, and he says, okay, well, we're going to have to develop an image, right? Like an analogy, a sort of blown up image, like in a microscope, that we can look at to say, this is what justice is in terms of its structure. What are the parts that make justice justice? What is its definition? And so he says, okay, well, if we can figure out what justice in the city is, we can figure out what justice in the soul is. So the whole point of the city and the republic is to give this macrocosmic image of what justice is, not to propose a constitution for an existing city. And there's additional evidence to think this is the case, like the fact that he actually wrote a book on law, or at least Plato wrote a book on laws, which differs quite a bit from the content of the Republic, so on and so forth. But basically, what I'm getting at is the point the Republic within the book, the Republic that we're looking at, the laws of, what it is basically a macrocosm of man. It's a giant man that, if we can look at, we understand what justice in the soul is. And weirdly enough, that's exactly what's happening in Bionicle, right? The society that we see is literally inside a giant robot, right? It is, so to speak, the organs, the internal society of the soul of this robot, although they're not identical to it in the way that a man would be identical to his parts, right? The parts of his soul. But yeah, there's this relationship between the macrocosm and the microcosm, where the harmony of this city inside the soul is representative of, or signifies, the health of the larger, robot, right, or person. So I feel like the fact that the purpose is similar, right? That this society of Matoron and Toa and Turaga are sort of this microcosm inside the macrocosm of the giant robot Matanui, who and that, the health of their society in some sense is what determines the health of the macrocosm. Oh gosh, not another Halo side. Makes the comparison a lot stronger than it would otherwise be. It's also kind of interesting that there's a lot of virtue language in the Bionicle universe. So there's this whole thing about the 3 virtues: unity, duty, and destiny. But it's just sort of a general ethic of these things, of this imagined society. But also, right, it's understood as the things that are required for them to maintain this giant robot that they're living in. Although they don't understand themselves that they're living in a robot, if you will. Any more than, say, the members of the Republic understand that they're... The imagined Republic, of course, understand that they're living inside merely what is an analogy. Or a diagram. But, it's kind of unusual for the word virtue itself to be used in sort of a children's toy. Like, we might talk about heroism or good qualities, but the term virtue itself is almost so specific, so bound in the traditional terminology of ethics that you'd almost think that someone over there in Denmark was chuckling to themselves, looking at their dog-eared copy of the Republic. I don't think, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, there's been millions of people giving all sorts of fan theories and stuff about this too, so I'm not going to claim, that there's no one out there who's thought of this, but I don't think there's a lot of people who have dwelt on this, and I do think it is mostly just chance. Oh, shoot. I could certainly believe this was all just... Dang it. I could certainly believe this was all chance, right? But, I don't know. It just interests me a lot. And I will say, I'm at least as great a fan of Play-Doh as I am of Bionicle, so... I know I'm not the only one out there, but I'm certainly not one of an exceeding number. I don't really know why I really want to share this with the world. It just... not exactly something I could write an academic paper on. And it feels like one of those little lore thingamies that you don't really present to the world because a forum exists or YouTube exists and you can do whatever the heck you want. But yeah, the virtues. So basically, the virtues, right, are what allow the Matoran to remember, know what to do to keep the robot going, and same for the Toa and so on. And the virtues, especially the virtue of justice for Plato, is precisely what is precisely the working and cooperation of the parts to maintain the whole, right? So that's what justice in the city is. And he says justice in the soul is just like this, right? The soul has parts, or different functions or tasks, you might say. And justice means that these things are in harmony, that they're maintaining the human person properly. And injustice, therefore, is whatever is harmful to this and is bad in itself. And that comes around to why he thinks, or that's his counter argument to the political realist who says justice is just the convenience of the strong, right? But there is no such thing as justice. Please be the spear. Yep. Are there other interesting characters that might be connected to this? There's some other stuff too, actually. I mean, stuff that gets more into stretching territory, but it's kind of interesting. It might be interesting. So, there are some enemies in the biological story that may vaguely resemble elements of Plato's account in the Republic. So we have, for example, the drones, which I don't think they're in any sense materially, like thematically connected to the Borak, which are this swarm of, well, literally drones. They're machine life. They're machine life whose task it is to basically remove scum from the surface of the robot. Dang it! Remove scum from the surface of the robot. Remove clutter and junk. And they're sort of an alternate evolution of what creates Matoran. The villagers. There's also Makuta, and I suppose Makuta could be the image of the tyrant. I mean, oh, shocker, the big bad evil guy is a tyrant. Yeah, well, but in a very specific sense, right? So he belongs to a class of members of this society within the robot, and his task, the task of his sort of race, which is a little bit different from that of the three-part society of Matoran, Toa, and Turaga, is the study of biology and mutation. It's basically kind of a scientist, biologist of sorts. But apparently, he has these Luciferian ambitions when he sees. Actually, first what happens is their war comes to be inside of Matanui, inside the big robot, because there's some warlords who basically decide to stand against the order that holds within the robot, right? And this Makuta fellow, seeing this, is like, oh, that's an option. I could rebel against order. I could take over this whole shebang and become the robot, right? I could be, sort of the god, the intelligence of the sphere. I could become the Matanui robot. And so it basically causes a system crash, literally stops the robot's heart, and screws everything up. And so that's why the Toa have to go out and stop him, to restore Matanui to working order, bring him back to life, awaken him from his slumber so he can complete his task. But I feel like it's an interesting, I guess, image of the tyrant in the sense which is present in the Republic. Yep. Nope. Partial in the sense of like how it's his own desires, his ambition, um, that, but most importantly, his desire to become, his ambition, his desire, self becoming the governing power within this little republic that is the robot. Well, little. I say little, but this thing could like sprint across the earth in 3 steps. It's a giant ass robot. Sort of in the lore, but the Platonic idea of what a tyrant is sort of not just any disorder within the Constitution of the Republic, but when the appetitive, right, the appetite, part of the soul that has to do with the appetite, becomes the ruling, not just becomes the ruling part of the soul, but which happens in the Constitution that he calls the democratic, in that the desires of many are treated equally and is taken to govern wars. Instead, right, a tyrant arises when one of those desires, right, becomes so much more powerful than the rest that it begins to govern them. And so, rather than just being a disordered mess where there is no order because no one voice, or rather no voice of reason or honor rules, but rather desire itself of one person becomes the governing force and orders all other desires, all other appetites towards its own goal. And this, of course, is a not good situation. Gosh, the neighbors are being really loud. I'll close the window. Like I said, it's a stretch, but I feel like that kind of is similar conceptually to how Makuta ends up attempting to seize power. There's basically a whole riot of these warlords who try to assert power from the sort of military government of this republic, which is sort of a bit like what he would call the democratic or perhaps the oligarchic constitution, overthrowing the timocratic. And instead of all these warlords scrambling, it's just this one guy and his own drive for power, which throws the whole thing into a disarray. And he eventually does succeed, by the way. He succeeds in ousting Matanui from the body of the robot, the sort of spiritual program that was formerly governing the robot. Which sort of causes the final arc in the story to take place, because the heroes have to oust Makuta, the evil intelligence, from the robot and destroy it and bring life back to the planet that was devastated previously, as was ultimately the task of this robot and the intelligence Matanui. Of course, the terminology within the story is the Great Spirit Matanui, right? Because there's this whole sort of mythological overtone that takes place, which I think is real cool. You know. Not completely unconnected to the whole Plato analogy too, if you think about it, because the big deal with the Republic, why it was written, was as far as I understand, is if you look at the apology of Socrates, right? It is basically his defense before the people of Athens who have accused him of being an atheist and bad for the morals of society, and basically menace to society. He says, obviously I believe in gods. If not, then I would not be acting on what a god told me to do, and so on and so forth. And it ends up being a very close vote to put him to death. And when he sees the vote, it's like, I was put to death by 3 votes. If I had the time, I would explain myself a little bit more thoroughly, and my defense would succeed, I think, and you would not put me to death. And so the Republic is basically an idea of what he would have said, I think. Right. That's what Plato's trying to present. The theoretical dialogue that potentially based on a real one of what Socrates would say in his defense if he had the time. And so, sort of the matter of the gods is not far from him. And what Socrates constantly tends to do in a lot of these dialogues is, he says, right, the gods, the stories about the gods, the myths, which describe all sorts of human actions and human evils to them, cannot be the case. Because we know metaphysically that's impossible. We cannot impute anything evil to the gods. Rather, you must consider them to be the source of all goodness, and so on and so forth. And if that's the case, right, he sort of wants to demythologize, to a certain extent, or reinterpret the gods in a way that is philosophically acceptable. Right? That they aren't these bawdy human creatures, but that they are the principles of the goods that we see in life. And of course, this sort of demythologization from a place of mythology is something that takes place within the story of Bionicle. Where we first sort of find the story is very much in media res, where the giant robot, it turns out, because it was sabotaged by Makuta, basically the tyrant, has crash landed on one of the 3 planets that resulted from the destruction of the home planet, right? This giant ocean planet. And so he's kind of lying there. He's been lying there for ages because the Toa that were supposed to awaken to fix this disorder, something malfunctioned with their canisters that they were launched from, because of Makuta's shenanigans, as you might expect. And so they've been drifting around in the ocean for like 1,000,000 years, or 1,000 years or something, right? And because of this, they've sort of fallen apart. Their organic components have sort of weakened and disintegrated, which is why you have to put them together as construction toys. Is you basically have found them as they were after they've been drifting on the oceans of this planet for millennia, finally making it to the island of Matanui, which turns out to be right on top of the face of the giant robot and hiding the true nature of the world we're in for literally like 8 or 9 years of actual time, right? So literally, I went from being a tiny little child that barely could remember anything to, being still a fairly young child, but in like high school or something, when the full ramifications of the story came out. Anyway, so basically, right, we arrive in media res, and there's this whole, all we know about Matanui is the great spirit, and that his brother Makuta, the spirit of shadow, has in jealousy put him to sleep, and we don't know anything about this giant robot. We have some clues. We have perhaps very vague hints, but all of this is very well hidden. And this mythology that exists is not understood in its full reality. Which sort of reminds me, you can understand, of the whole Platonic thing, where he's in this corrupt city that doesn't understand what it's trying to do, where tyrants and such have ruled, and he's trying to uncover the truth. And he basically says, well, these myths, they're true, but only in a different sense than you may imagine. And we have to uncover this truth. We have to remember this truth. Of course, part of that is trying to understand what the definitions that lie behind these common words like justice are, or what is it truly to be just? What does it actually mean in terms of the city? What does it mean in terms of the soul? That ends up sort of being what happens in the story of Bionicle. Is this all intentional? Once again, I rather doubt it. It wouldn't shock me if it was intentional. It would not shock me at all if it wasn't intentional. I just think it's kind of neat. That's really all there is to it. I doubt anyone will hear this little spiel tucked in among the freaking farming stream. But I don't know. If you do, if it tickles your fancy, if you're a Plato fan and a Bionicles fan like me, I don't know. I hope you will enjoy that. But as it is, I'm just sort of running my mouth. I'm filling time. I'm just getting out stuff that's been brewing away in my mind for a few years. Talking about something other than low-level soul stuff. Where I'm probably pretty bad at it anyway, because I'll be honest, like, what I'm presenting here is very much not a meta build. Like, I do not recommend going Prophet if you're building, so to speak, an ideal low-level invader, right? Unless your goal is to, like, rot breath people, in which case, please don't, right? But, like, you're probably better off with something like the Samurai, let's be honest. High endurance, decent vigor, very high dex, so you can just Radagons into 20 dex weapons, stuff like that. I think you may need a ring slot to one-hand the Stormhawk axe or a hat, but Stormhawk axe can be two-handed anyway. It's not like you gain anything from power stancing axes. Probably lose more than you gain, really. So a weapon art stick like that does benefit from having at least a decent dex, right? 15 dex, I think. Another option, of course, is Vagabond, especially if you're going to go for exploding physic kills. The more vigor you have, the easier it is to survive afterwards. Golly gee, this could take forever. I don't know. Feels nice to have that off my chest. Perhaps sometime I should do some Bionicle cosplay invasions. Cosplay in a very loose sense, but I could come in with an axe or something and be like, I'm Leiwa, and I have Storm Stomp on my axe, which represents his elemental air powers and that kind of thing, I think a lot of people recognize that. A lot of people my age playing Souls will appreciate the references. You could do a flame build with Tahu. Perhaps, like the flowing curved sword for Gali, because she's got those hooks. And she's water themed. Kopaka, of course, has an ice sword and a shield. Sword and board, frost build. Speaking of frost builds, I wonder if I couldn't do an int quality build for a 125 or a 120 build. Just like a 30-30-30 or something like that. Maybe even 20-30-30. I know what the ideal allotment is, but I feel like something like that could really make... I mean, it would have the versatility of a bunch of int ashes. You could probably use things like the Fongstar Beastjaw, which I think is a quality weapon, right? Frost tends to go quality on quality-ish weapons. Loretta's Sickle is a quality weapon that usually doesn't shine because it's hard to optimize for, and its weapon of, or its Ash of War is suboptimal compared to the transferable Ash, which I hope they buff, honestly, because as it is, there's like no reason to use it. Just musings. But I haven't done a lot of 120, 125 stuff for obvious reasons. Right? I have like 4 of these files, and each of them takes, say, 40 hours I've spent, including invasions. This one's getting there pretty soon with all this farm. That eats up a lot of time that I would invade on something else. I'll just kill him with fire. Drop anything? No. Perhaps I should swap. I mean, this is my swap off of Magma Blade farming. But now that things are getting hellish again with a spear, I wonder if I shouldn't just swap to farming for the Staff of the Guilty. Although I do need 2 of those, but I don't think Flame Sorcerers are gonna... sorry, Flame Monk. What are they, Flame Sorcerers? I don't think they're gonna be that hard to farm. And I could farm the Fire Prelate at the same time if I really wanted to. I think you can stack like a 40% boost of Thorn Sorceries if you have 2 of them. I'm not quite sure. Let's use these souls real fast and then go try farming those for a hot minute. I tire of this farm, of its tedium. We also go get some other items that we haven't gotten yet. There's plenty of things I've neglected. Like I think I could go grab the Giant's Seal, which might be useful if I do some invading, especially if I do like Pillars of Fire cheese. Thing to consider. I think it's like up in the Giant's Mountaintop Catacombs, in fact. I'll go check. And if not, we can just farm this, we'll farm this map. posts. Very nice. Oh, a drop? Hope it's not smithing stone. It probably is. At that rarity rate, it's gotta be. It's disappointing. Oh, it looks like that's not where the seal is. Just a glovewort. And a grave one at that. That's disappointing. To get bud flies on here, swarm of flies. I'll do a farm I've demonstrated on YouTube before, and it's on video. Put flies here, put breath over here. Swap over this. Oh yeah, we should get the resistance talismans. I always think about that and then leave it off. Okay, if we summon Dougie here, get over here on this rock and then rock breath, we should be able to involve this thorn sorcerer. Apply rot to the big un. And then let Dung deal with them. Okay, let's see what we get. A prelate armor? Not on this build we don't. So, isn't that a spell? No, that's Artillery Leaf. Is this the spell? Rise of Punishment, yep. A sorcery that even I could use. Because it's purely faith-based. Deals bleed damage. We will not be using an arcane staff because we're really here for the damage. We can boost it. Percent boost. The self-damage is worrisome, but we can always cast a little bestial vitality or something. At this level, it's a percentage health cost. It shouldn't be so bad. You also get this whip, which we're not going to actually do anything with, but I don't know, it's kind of cool. Prelate set in general. Not at all weight efficient for what we're trying to do, I'm afraid. Come on, Dung Eater. Yeah, I say teleports to you sometimes. Come on, Dung. There. Did we get anything out of that? Nope. And to wrap up the rest of this lot. This miserable lot. damage Rock Breath quite easily, in fact. Fortunately, the pickings are slim. So this isn't a bad spot to farm just because we can get some other loot. Do some themed builds, perhaps. The Thatch Rolling Fire Prelate, perhaps. Farm the flowers here. I would say the I think the Giant's Flame pots are a bit BM with our modest faith investment and the fact that we can boost it several times over. Even their base damage is really high once we start putting in the power, if you will, of multiple damage boost, percentage based damage boosts on an already overtuned consumable. Yeah. If people can't dodge it, they're in trouble. Yeah, make sure to dodge the whole combo there, folks, or else you will die. Something out of it. Fire Prelate Greaves. It's not even a rare drop. Oh, hey, how's it going, crap? Sorry, how's it going, carpet? Yep. I've been just doing farming streams, not really advertising it, just doing a little cleanup, so to speak. Rambling about various subjects while I get cosplay builds and whatnot prepared. Trying to farm the Staff of the Guilty here. And maybe some of the Fire Prelate stuff. Farming a bunch of armor. Yeah? What have you been farming? Been farming the Banished Knight, perhaps? All this stuff in Lanedale first? Yeah, fair enough. I do have a bunch of farming videos if you're in any way interested. Over on my YouTube channel, like the Duelists, the Duelist farm. Although the method has been changed to just Cerulean Dagger and Flame of the Red Mains. No need for Rock Breath. Oh, nice, nice. Oh yeah, the page set. I ended up having to find the page set in my original file from somewhere completely different and inconvenient. Do you know where it is? There's one high page that's not in Lanedale, as far as I know. It's in Rail Icaria Academy. If you go up the ladder from the Church of the Cuckoo, whatever it's called, there's one that's guarding that passageway. Yeah, the staff. I farmed that thing so long. And I'll probably do it again, maybe. That thing kills me though. That thing killed me on a 150. I'm not very fond of that page. I suppose I should go get the staff. It would help. Run a farm on the cook. Yeah. Oh gosh, where are you farming? The first time I farmed it, I was stupid. I did it over in like Western Liurnia, but I think the closest one to a site of grace is the one right by Bellum Highway, like right after the teleportation from the Academy gate. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, the bridge for the regular soldiers, yeah. I am rather fond of the helmet for the regular soldier. There's 3 if you backtrack from the lift. Oh, that's right. Yeah, the lift is probably even better. Oh. Danger, Will Robinson. Uh-oh. Do you enjoy farming? I find it kind of therapeutic, at least when it's not too bad. I actually managed to get the magma blade, but I want to farm too, so it's gonna take a while for the second one. I'm taking a break doing other farms. I mean, the first one took what, 4 hours, maybe 3 hours? I don't know, a very long time. Man, these stabs aren't dropping either. I wonder if these ones don't drop them at all. I know sometimes enemies don't always drop them. Like they have to be in a specific location. Monk's Flameblade is obviously one. I don't think that's the case for the staff though. But yeah, you haven't really missed much here. The only thing you missed was like an hour of me farming the Clean Rotten Knights over in Heart of Aeonia and rambling about Bionicle lore and how it has to do with Plato's Republic. To literally no one. I am rather curious. How is the rune level 1 working in terms of like compared to other builds? I guess. So I figure it's actually pretty good, right? You're very close to the requirements of a lot of things. You don't have to invest. Well, I mean, you're not going to invest much, but like you don't have to invest a lot of rings for a lot of things. Still totally cheesable. Yeah. I mean, you got more health than I do on this character. It's that good stat allocation. I feel like in this game, the only 2 true dump stats are either you forgo intelligence entirely or you forgo arcane entirely. Like, a little bit of faith goes a long way. And honestly, you'd rather have arcane in one of these runs than intelligence. It's kind of disgusting how he. This is how. This is sort of not exactly how, but this is sort of how you find hosts like way up, in the mountaintops with like 700 health or whatever. It's because it's really doable. At least if you have a summon to back you up or whatever. overleveled Phantom, which is basically the same thing. And they just throw everything into damage stats for their weapons so they can spam Ashes of War. The other day, I invaded into a Halig tree. Someone was bonfire dueling. Well, not bonfire dueling in the sense of like dishonorably, but he was just sitting at the Halig tree root side of Grace. Taunter's tongued. I was a bit surprised, but I was kind of glad too. It's like, yay. There's enough of us that he's bothering to try. But he demolished me with Seppuku, so I was a little bit less than happy about that. This game is very cheesable, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it certainly has been a fun thing. And oh, is that the staff? Is that the staff? No, it's the fire prelate armor. Oh, I got my hopes up. At least I could be fat. I could be Fat Malekith cosplay. The low-level Fat Malekith cosplay. Where do you find the Mausoleum Soldier stuff? I like to do it from 4th Church, personally. Okay, so, here, where is it? Is it 4th Church? There's 2 of them right outside of this church, so you can just go from here to here. There's 3 more a little bit down the path as well, but I don't find them to be as convenient. And of course, for the Mausoleum Knight, there's the one right outside the Grace over in the Black Knife Catacombs, so you can farm them from there. But yeah, that's how I farm the Mausoleum Soldier stuff, which I'm wearing. Oh, oops. Instinctive L2 response, or L1 response. But yeah, that's my suggested location. I don't know if it's truly ideal, but at low level, you know, there's no problem. So, and it's decently convenient. I'm wearing the Mausoleum Soldier armor. Yeah, Mausoleum Soldier armor is pretty cool. It's probably worse for most situations than the Knight armor, but it's not too far different, and it's got good poise to weight ratio. Like Knight armor, Vikes, and Mausoleum Soldier are all tied for poise efficiency, and they have the same weight. What the? I got straight by the pillar. But yeah, I like the Mausoleum Soldier armor more than the Knight armor because I feel like it goes better with a lot of headpieces than the Knight armor does. The armor sometimes looks a bit goofy. But like you can even wear white mask with the Mausoleum Soldier set, and it doesn't look too bad, which is like a first. Because usually it looks very ugly. I usually go bull goats with this set, but can't really do so right now because I'm not putting on the Great Jar Talisman while I'm farming. I just have very low base endurance. One of the things I'm not fond about the Prophet. Vikes is also, I don't know. Vikes can be decent looking, but it's hell to get. It took me like all night on my bandit file to kill him. And the only method I could really discover was to spam Black Knife. And by spam, I mean you have to wait like for specific moves where he won't be able to dodge out of the way because he consistently dodges the Ash of War. And you basically have to no-hit him. It's incredibly disgusting and takes like 8 minutes to do at least, I feel like. It's like Tish fight but worse, basically. This is a fun low spot to choose. The only thing that can hit you is the fireball. Hey, you got the Thorn Whip. Very cool. I think I have a full set now. Yep. Didn't really expect to get this, but I guess it worked out. 16 decks. Yeah, worthless. Worthless to one such as I, who have 15 decks on Source Seal. Maybe I should go over to Liurnia and farm there somewhere. I don't know if there's a great spot. I think there's one by Moon Labyrinth. That doesn't sound right. I think it's like here. I thought there was one by the camp. I'll go check. But it feels bad having to kill the fire prelate every time when I already have all this stuff that I won't wear. Except to cosplay. Even then I might not wear it. It might break. It might help like break 40 poise or something on the fire monk cosplay. It's just not very poise efficient. I do like it, modestly though. Could have sworn there's a set of grease somewhere around here. Perhaps I'm crazy. If there's really no point doing this. But for the fact that these are extremely easy to kill. There's a bunch of them around here, I think. Come on, oh, I can't summon Dung. Dunge Eater. We also try over by Fort Lade. So I could have sworn there's a set of grease somewhere around here. Maybe I'm just wrong and stupid. Well, maybe it's... Nah. I think I'm just wrong and stupid. Well, I haven't even grabbed this one yet on this file. Okay. I don't know. What's your preferred drip for low level invading? Do you just like to change it up depending on cosplay, or do you have something you like to optimize for? Okay. Might try Seethe Water Terminus. One of the soldier sets. Gotta go get the Halig Tree sets after finally. Yeah, Halig Tree. Oh, you haven't gone past Morgoth yet. Okay, that's fair. Right, 4 talismans. Honestly, like, if I was going for just like a fair but busted build, I'd probably just do the Hawk. Oh, hey, how's it going, Oliver? What the heck? I don't remember that thing coming up over here usually. What the? Are we seeing this? That doesn't look normal. Look at the... It's just looking at me. It looks so sad. Anyway, Oliver, glad to see you. Oh, have you seen my most recent Malekith kill? I think I found the new best strategy. We don't even need Rot Breath in phase 2. I don't think I'll ever bother again. All the missable items? Yeah. I completely sympathize with that. Yeah. But basically, my previous strat was to rot him in phase 2 and then try to get him to the poise loop, but then I realized after doing that and thinking I did that, but actually failing, I failed the task successfully. And it turns out that if you have the Cerulean Talisman, you can just poison him forever without worrying about FP costs. And since it's an infinite loop, and a little bit easier to get off than doing the rot breath, there's no point doing rot breath in phase 2. Yeah, I'm shocked. I should have thought of it sooner because I've been doing it on harder bosses that it doesn't work on quite as well. And like for farming and stuff. I should have known because I poise looped with drinking a flask. Oh, you just killed Placidusax. Congrats, and I'm gonna have to go watch that tonight. I assume you have a video, right? If not, that's okay. But man, if you do, I'm gonna watch it because I knew it was possible. I knew it was a matter of time, but it was super hard. Excellent. I'll have to see your strat. I mean, he's not too hard, but I'm a greedy, monkey brain chimp, so I always got myself caught on an unsafe move. So I find it a lot easier to do the poise break. Yeah, rot pots also work. Rot pots doesn't do as much rot damage though. It's the weaker rot. And I don't like doing pots because if you fail an attempt, it's just like, you gotta make more. They do a lot of rot buildup, yeah. But like the type of rot it applies is weaker, I believe. Whereas the rot breath does the strong type of rot, does more damage over time. I know for a fact these ones can drop the stab, so maybe this will be a more efficient farm. Oh. Okay, there's one staff. Oh gosh. Oh. Right, I'm at the beginning with breath and later with pots, so twice the rot. That's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, phase 1 rot is easy, so we always do it. I know I'll go watch the video later, but I'm curious how you got Placidusax. When I was trying Placidusax before, I did a few attempts, and I was doing Tish to try to get as much damage early on with Rot, and then just used Blade of Death and Black Flame, since applying any other status wasn't worth it. Dung Eater? Dung Eater, is that good? Okay. I was suspecting it, because the issue with Tish was, unlike other bosses, she can't dodge his damage. So maybe, yeah, we'll go Dung. I haven't even upgraded Dung or Tish on this build yet, and I might never, unless she ends up being how to do Millennia. I know you can do Millennia with her, but yeah, we stand Dung Eater here. This is secretly just a Dung Eater fan club. You show me the way. Yeah, pretty much. It's funny because the only one who's not good at tanking really is like Malakath, I guess, because he can die pretty quickly in phase 2, but Malekith also just can't tank anything anyway, so it's fine. We know how to beat Malekith. It's so sad. It's kind of sad when you think about it that when you kill Dung Eater, he dies in one hit. Like when you kill him in the sewers. But he ends up being the strongest boy. I guess that's just irony. Anyway, if I can get another Staff of the Guilty, I might go back to farm a second Magma Blade. I don't know. He can tank phase 2. I always found that he would end up dying if I let him tank too much. Like in my most recent one, he survives, but that's because I poise looped him really early. Maybe I'm just pulling out the wrong moves from Malekith. I don't know. Oh, one attempt. Yeah, I probably am too slow. As you got the right off. Yeah, that happened my first playthrough when I was doing Malekith. I think. No, I might have used Tish for him. I don't know, but the point is, no, I think yeah, I did do Dung Eater because Tish is bad at aggro. I think like the only bosses apart from some of the endgame bosses that Tish is good for is like she was way better when I did Fortisax, the Lich Dragon, for some reason. Because I was keeping a lot of distance, and Dung Eater sometimes does de-aggro if you're running away from the boss. Yeah, she's also better for Giant. But Giant is doable with Dung Eater, so it's not a huge... It's not one where I would tell people to go do Tish, because like killing Electo is way harder than killing Fire Giant. But yeah, gosh, if we can perfect just a no Tish run, that would mean you never have to do the Electo fight in the Everjail. That would be a very optimum run. I hope we figure out a strat where we never use Tish. Well, yeah, I mean, technically you don't need any summons, but I'm not on ball. So, like, if we're going to do Malenia, I'm trying to figure out what the strat would be that doesn't involve Tish. I mean, if we can get, like, the Oga version to work, you can just do with Dung Eater. I don't think... Maybe I'm just doing the fight wrong, but I don't think Dung Eater works for Malenia, because he just heals her way too much. I don't know, maybe I'm just playing it too passively. Yeah. I think Tish is mainly used against some dragons. Just so she can hit head consistently and apply damage over time. That's about it. But you can usually just kill them with your own damage anyway. It's not necessary to have Tish for any of the dragons so far. I don't know why I dropped there. Not a single drop that run. This reminds me of farming in Dark Souls 2. I hope there isn't a mechanic like that in this game where like it gets harder to farm the more you farm, because that would just be very cruel. We've already getting bullied enough with some of the farms in this game. Look at them killing each other and themselves. Poison S-Stock and DS2. Gosh, I can't wait for DS2 to come back. Oh gosh, that's my second staff. Now I can dual wield. I'm ready to be a sorcerer. A faith sorcerer. Because those are real. This guy sell that I haven't bought already. Better off without a summon. I could believe that. Oh yeah, Placidius access here. Okay, as soon as I end the stream, I can go watch. I can't like open a browser while I'm running the game because it will tank my FPS and probably crash the game. But I will definitely go check that out. Post haste. For heavy attacks? Okay, so are you telling me I just need to get good? Fit in a good Black Knife Ash of War. Yeah, I've been mostly just trying to spam her down with Black Knife in my attempts. With a little bit of Blood Flies. Perhaps, yeah. Nah, I mean, I'll probably end up trying to learn it. I know it's possible. Heck, I probably, even using Tish is probably possible. It's just, phase 2 is really rough for me. The one that gets me is when she does the clones, when she shoots at the clones. That always kills me. And then I have a hard time finding attack opportunities as well. But if I can learn it... Yeah, that clone attack. It's like... Yeah. That's really the only place where the nerf really hurts for Bloodhound Step. Okay, I'll go fast. Farm this. Run far into to the left. Okay, that's probably my problem. I keep running right because it's always is that sort of rotate to the right disease that I have. Went out of for in 30 minutes. Okay, yeah, that's fast because I've spent at least that much time just dying. It's super counterintuitive. Okay. Well, gosh, I almost want to just quit stream and go watch. That's the wrong one. Oh no, I goofed. I'm dead. Like, okay, so I'll explain the way I was doing it. So I would run in with Tish at the start, and then I would run to his tail, which would give me time to do 2 rot breaths, which would get him. And then I would sort of back off and try to dodge the fire attack because he does a fire attack that'll reach back to the tail. And then after that, I would just spam Black Knife and Black Flame until phase 2. And then Tish would usually die a little bit into phase 2 when he does, you know, his BS move. Come in and not give you attack opportunities. But I'm gonna guess, by counterintuitive, you mean like you gotta stick to his body and roll his claws or something? That feels like the correct move. Because if you can get him to melee, you can keep him from running away, right? I know, that's just my guess. Okay, spear come, please. Oh, you're talking about Melania. Sorry, I thought I was talking. I thought you had seen the video. Yeah, it is super counterintuitive to run clockwise, though. I wanted to say counterclockwise there, but that wouldn't be true, would it? Oh no, that is clockwise. We usually run counterclockwise. Oh no, wait. I've gotten myself confused. Don't remember. Well, good thing we have video evidence. We have video documentation. That's one of the great things. I feel like that's one of the best things that's come out of, you know, streaming and like sharing on YouTube and